The U.S. had lost 52 submarines to the deep blue sea during World War II, leaving many spectators wondering what had happened to them. But one researcher decided to act. Tim Taylor and his team made it their ultimate mission to find those submarines, and in 2010 they found the first vessel. However, it wasn't until almost a decade later that the team would stumble upon a valuable submarine, revealing a 75-year-long mystery. Because that particular submarine had disappeared off the face of the Earth without any explanation. From exotic sea creatures to beautiful ecosystems, it's amazing what's hidden beneath the water's surface. But one of the most interesting things to find along the ocean's floor is ships and submarines. And for professional ocean explorer Tim Taylor, this was more than just passion. He was focused on finding some of the United States' most historical submarines lost in battle during World War II. But the thing about these subs is that they were nowhere to be found for decades. So how exactly was he going to find them? Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Just because you know something is lost doesn't mean you know where it was lost after all. That's the whole point of it being lost. But this wasn't like losing your phone at a sporting event or something like that. These were vessels that were a few hundred feet in length. These submarines weren't just shipwrecked and lost at sea. They just mysteriously vanished into the ocean's depth, nowhere to be found. That is, until Tim Taylor came along. But even he couldn't prepare for what things were going to be like when he decided to start his mission, especially since they were military vessels. The fact that so many submarines were never heard from again made the mystery that much more captivating. Back in 1944, there was one particular vessel that was one of the U.S. military's most prized submarines, the USS Grayback, SS-208. This submarine was deemed lost at sea after the Marines team on land never heard from them again. The location of where the submarine was lost, along with what actually happened to it, had haunted people for many years. So how exactly was this vessel lost at sea in the first place? The whole story begins during World War II. The USS Grayback had set sail out of Pearl Harbor towards the end of 1941 and ended up being one of the most important vessels during that time. Its sole purpose was to sink freight vessels, damage cargo ships, and take down the rival submarines, and that it did. Over the course of about 2 years, the submarine had been a part of 10 successful war patrol missions, hitting and sinking a total of 63835 tons of cargo and 14 ships. 1,942 was a big year for the USS Grayback. The team and vessel had hit its very first target, a 3,291-ton freight ship, on March 17. And within the next few months, it had proven to be a vicious vessel for any enemy target. But damaging the enemy's cargo ships and subs wasn't the only thing the USS Grayback was known for. The vicious vessel also honorably assisted in the rescue of 6 survivors after a B-26 plane crashed in January 1943. Little did they know that just a year later, the submarine itself would be the one who needed rescuing. The way things work with military vessels, especially when they're in an area far from populated areas, is that they are supposed to be sent out for a certain amount of time before going back. And since the USS Grayback was a submarine, the team on it was prepared to be out at sea for a long period of time. After all, they would be under the water and needed to be prepared for any and all scenarios. But after its 9th mission out to sea, the SS-208 made a safe return to shore to rest and prepare for its next war patrol. So far, things were going great for the sub and its crew. They returned to shore and were locked and reloaded for their 10th mission in January 1944. They set sail on the 28th of January 1944 from Pearl Harbor and had hit 2 more cargo ships within the next month. At that point, they were running low on torpedoes and were commanded to return back to shore to reload. Nobody would have ever expected what would happen next, though. One of the reasons why the SS-208 is known to be so legendary in the world of Navy units is the fact that not only was she a vicious vessel, but she didn't go down without a fight. On February 27, 1944, the submarine's crew had updated the unit on land that they had damaged and sunk another target, a naval transport vessel. However, unfortunately, during that same time, the USS Grayback had sadly been damaged by an aircraft during battle. That was the very last update that anyone ever received from its crew members aboard the submarine. The final words of the USS Grayback were sent on February 27th, but they were expected back to shore on March 7th. When the submarine never returned home by March 30th, there was no choice but to declare it lost, according to the U.S. Defense official website. The Naval History and Heritage Command documented the vessel's demise. That same day, February 27, a Japanese carrier-based plane spotted a submarine on the surface in the East China Sea and attacked. According to Japanese reports, the submarine exploded and sank immediately, but anti-submarine craft were called in to depth charge the area, clearly marked by a trail of air bubbles, until at last a heavy oil slick swelled to the surface. It was a devastating loss. The country lost not only a key submarine, but also the brave crew members aboard. Given the weight of the tragedy, it became important to determine where the Grayback had actually gone down. For years, no one could find it. But that changed in 2010. Clues were limited. It was believed the sub had sunk somewhere in the South Pacific, near the South China Sea. Access to Japanese military records gave the Navy a better idea about 100 miles southeast of Okinawa, but still, the exact location remained unknown. Surprisingly, it wasn't the Navy that would uncover the mystery, but a civilian ocean explorer named Tim Taylor. Military equipment is often top tier, with inventions like GPS and the internet tracing back to defense development. Still, even with advanced tools, the military never managed to locate several World War II-era subs, including the Grayback. Taylor, however, had different plans. He believed determination, paired with the right tools and research, could succeed where others had failed. Earlier that same year, he had already achieved a remarkable feat, discovering the wreck of the USS R-12. The USS R-12 had sunk during a mission near Key West in 1943 due to a malfunction. While 5 crew members survived, 42 perished, and the sub remained missing for decades. In October 2010, Tim Taylor and his team aboard the research vessel Tiburon located the R-12 resting on the seafloor. That success gave him the momentum to launch a broader mission to find other lost submarines, including the Grayback. This wasn't a fluke. Taylor was well prepared. With over 30 years of experience in underwater exploration, and as the CEO of Tiburon Subsea, he had both the technical and operational knowledge to carry out deep-sea missions. In a 2015 interview, Taylor said his passion for exploration had always driven him. His work over the years gave him a deep understanding of autonomous underwater vehicles and how to use them effectively for real-world discovery. Using this expertise, he launched the Lost 52 project, named for the 52 U.S. submarines lost during World War II. Within less than a decade, Taylor's team had found 5 of them. Their process began with intensive pre-production, collecting as much data as possible before launching any expedition. This included gathering historical documents, maps, and military records to narrow down potential search areas. Research was critical, but even with the best planning, finding the USS Grayback wouldn't go smoothly. The team had fortunately obtained Japanese military documents that recorded the coordinates of the bomb strike that sank the USS Grayback on the 27th of February 1944. But there was a problem. 1 digit in the translated coordinates was incorrect. The coordinates translation was off by 1 digit. That changed the location by more than 100 miles, Taylor explained in an interview with the Washington Post. After realizing the mistake, the team corrected their data and prepared for the expedition. They believed this time they had a real chance. In June 2019, they set sail for Okinawa, Japan, equipped with advanced submersible drones using sonar imaging to scan the ocean floor. These drones sent back high-resolution data, providing a detailed view of the underwater landscape. Despite the technology, challenges quickly emerged. Technical issues from refrigeration system malfunctions to drone errors began to stack up. Morale was low, and the crew was preparing to abandon the expedition. Then, during what was planned to be a 24-hour dive, a technical glitch appeared. But this apparent failure turned out to be a breakthrough. As the drone's camera swept along the wreck, it passed over a plaque on the submarine's bridge. There was no mistaking it, this was the USS Grayback. After 75 years, the lost submarine had finally been found, elated but cautious. The team's next step was to confirm the identity with the U.S. Navy. In the meantime, they collected extensive imagery and built a 4D model of the wreck, enabling researchers to examine the submarine in remarkable detail. The discovery was not just technical, it was deeply human. Despite being underwater for decades, the Grayback had become a small ecosystem. The team was struck by how nature had reclaimed the vessel. But one final step remained the most emotional of all. The Lost 52 Project's mission is to provide the fullest possible documentation and accounting of these locations for our missing World War II Navy sailors, their families, and the nation. Of the 52 submarines lost during the war, 374 officers and 3,131 enlisted men died. On the USS Grayback alone, 80 sailors were lost. Once the Navy verified the submarine's identity, Taylor's team turned to locating the families of the fallen. For many, the loss had remained an open wound. No remains, no final resting place, only silence. But Taylor's work brought long-awaited closure. One of those touched by the discovery was Kathy Taylor, niece of sailor John Patrick King. She had grown up with her uncle's story and always hoped to one day find answers. "I committed from the very beginning when I was a little girl that I was going to find him or follow him or keep his memory alive, whatever I could do," Kathy said in an emotional interview with ABC News. For families like hers, the discovery was a moment of release, a long-lost piece of history, and a family brought back from the depths. Thanks to Tim Taylor's perseverance, cutting-edge technology, and an unwavering commitment to the memory of those lost, the story of the USS Grayback finally found its end.